So in recent Ambedkar cartoon controversy, in one of the TV channels when you went live discussing, you referred the coin, you made a coin, you coined a word called Ambedkar as a prophet. You referred Ambedkar as a prophet, and what do you mean by that? Because do you mean that he should not be discussed and he's like a god, like any other, like Vinayagar, like that? So what do you mean by that?
No. See, when I am talking about Ambedkar being a prophet is never a god. See, the concept of prophethood and human, spiritual, social, political and economic liberation came in a massive way into the human world, because a prophet is a human being who works with the most oppressed people of his own time within his own location, and he gives people all kinds of liberative ideas and thoughts. Say, for example, Buddha was the first prophet. So he fought the Brahmanic or Vedic forces and liberated the Adivasis, the Chandals, the Sudras, and put them into one Sangha and gave them a life. Now, Buddha did not believe in God. Later on, he is worshipped as a god by certain Buddhist forces like both Hinayana and Mahayana. But Buddha himself was a human being. He could be discussed, he could be taught, he could be critiqued, he could be examined in any way. But he cannot be humiliated, he cannot be insulted, he cannot be attacked in a derogative sense. Then what happened? The forces who became Buddhist, the forces who got liberated with his thought, they will not keep quiet, because it becomes a huge social force. That's how Buddhism is now in several countries. Now the second greatest prophet, who actually disconnected between the concept of God and people's socio-spiritual, political, economic liberation, was Jesus. Jesus was a human being, lived like any one of us, and he had created a thought process. And he said that I am the Son of God, and God is far above me. There is no comparison between me and God. So Jesus became a subject of debate. Jesus, 4 Gospels were debated, critiqued, thought, all kinds of things were done. But a phase comes where his own followers, the feudal lords, the kings, the inhuman forces, tried to attack him as they killed him. Again, in the image form or in other forms, they will not keep quiet. They will galvanize their forces, they will attack. Now the third is Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad was a very ordinary human being, like Ambedkar, like anybody else, and he was a businessman. Then he became a social liberator, a spiritual liberator of the Arabic tribal communities who were hugely idol worshippers, ignorant, killing each other. Women were being burnt alive, women were being buried alive, and so on and so forth. So he first became a social liberator, then became a spiritual liberator, then constructed a Bible, Quran. Then he established his own kingdoms also. So a prophet is a spiritual thinker, a social thinker, a political thinker, an economic thinker. He can be discussed and debated, but he cannot be humiliated, or he cannot be attacked, or he cannot be insulted, he cannot be treated as untouchable. He cannot be treated as a barbaric human being. So then I am also saying that Marx is also a prophet. Why Marx is a prophet? Because he stood by the working class, constructed a philosophical liberation scope for them, and he constructed social theory, political theory, economic theory, and he has his own spiritual theory. He did not believe in God, but he was the liberator in multidimensional forms of the most oppressed of his country, Germany, then Britain. He didn't come to India, he lived in his own place. Similarly, I am saying Ambedkar is a prophet. Now, Ambedkar is a prophet for three great reasons. One, when Ambedkar was born among untouchables in India, no prophet earlier focused around abolition of untouchability. Neither Buddha so seriously, nor Jesus, because he was not here. There was a similar situation in Israel called the Samaritan situation. Nor Muhammad, because Muhammad basically worked around the Arabic tribes. Nor Marx. Marx also did not know that there was this untouchability, there was this barbaric situation. Ambedkar was born in that. And he worked out social, political, economic and spiritual methods, ways to liberate them. Now, one of the basic characteristics of prophets is that prophets work with the lowest of the low, most oppressed, poorest of the poor, and the wretched of the earth of his own times within his own region. And that's what Ambedkar did. There were no much more worse exploited people in this country than the untouchables when Ambedkar took up the cause. Now, having taken up the cause, he worked in the movements, he worked to write about them, he worked to liberate them in various forms of educational activities. He took them to the temples. When many of them did not work, he worked to give them reservations, education, which was completely banned to them, political rights, economic rights. But finally, he realized that more than anything, it was the spiritual rights of these people that would permanently liberate them. Now, if we did not have a prophetic streak exactly like Jesus and Muhammad, he would not have focused around spiritual agenda so seriously. He would not have critiqued Hinduism so seriously. He would not have confronted the Hindu mythology so seriously. He demolished Rama, he demolished Krishna, he demolished Dashavataras, he demolished Vedas, he demolished, of course, Manusmriti, and so on and so forth. Then he became an Avayana Buddhist. He connected the soulless people, the untouchables, to the most liberative, ancient, prophetic figure of Buddha. He did not connect them to warmongering Rama of mythology, Indian ancient mythology, or Krishna, who was seen as a Hindu upper caste god, nor he connected to any one of them. He connected to Buddha, who was a human being, who was critiqued. Buddha was critiqued. These people who are attacking me should read my book, God as Political Philosopher, Buddha Challenge to Brahmanism. Why did I call Buddha a god in that book? Why did I give that title? Buddha in the beginning was an ordinary human, a prince. Then he became a spiritual agent. Then he became a Sangha organizer. Then he said that I am like anybody else, I am subject for any criticism. Then he established a religion itself and he became a god. So he is God for China, he is God for Sri Lanka, he is God for Japan, He is God for Korea, he is God for many countries. So therefore I said God has political pillars. But Buddha is not God. Buddha is a human being. He didn't believe in the notion of God. Whereas the people believe that he is a God now. Whereas he says people don't think that Jesus is God. Even the Christians think that he is a prophet. He is son of God. He has been sent by God to liberate the Samaritans, the Gentiles, the tribals of Israel situation. Similarly, Muhammad cannot be compared with God. No Muslim accepts it. Muhammad can be critiqued. Muhammad's life can be assessed. Muhammad's life can be examined. But he cannot be treated as untouchable like these intellectuals in the 11th class book treated in that cartoon as an untouchable, as a Dalit, being possible to be whipped. Both Dalits get whipped in the villages. Now a Dalit icon who has acquired the prophetic stature is being whipped in a textbook. Now once this happens, the Dalits and the OBCs who are convinced with his liberation agenda will take grudges against that. That should happen. All these people must be made to be accountable for their indignified language, either through cartoons or through day-to-day engagement or through any other media, whether they are secular, whether they are democratic. They have not talked about removal of untouchability. They have not written a book, single book. They have not written a single article. They were not with the reservation movement. Now they say that no, we have the right to treat Ambedkar as untouchable. Ambedkar as an indignified person. Ambedkar was the cause for delay of the constitution. In other words, they are saying Ambedkar was incapable of writing constitution like Arun Shauri, and that was the view of Shankar too. What these people did not understand was Shankar, when he drew the cartoon in 1949, he seriously believed that Ambedkar was incapable of writing. He was meritless. And Nehru who was also a lawyer, was more meritorious, would have written a better, quicker and quickly adaptable constitution. Therefore, he is whipping, and this whole business of Ambedkar is also whipping the snail. It is like saying that Dalits are whipping cattle and the landlords and the Brahminic forces are whipping Dalits. Is it not good? That is absolute nonsense. It is not intellectualism. This is intellectual Goondagiri. That's what I said in posting. The upper caste intellectual, in the name of secularism, socialism, democracy, have been doing intellectual Goondagiri for a long time. And that is what they are trying to do now, which we will not accept. We know how to examine Buddha, we know how to examine Phule, we know how to examine Periyar, we know how to examine Ambedkar, and how to construct them. Now they are not constructed our icons in any form teachable in their texts earlier. No leftist did that. No secular person did that. No secular person wrote a book against Hinduism. It is I who wrote a book against Hinduism. Yes, I stand for scrutiny in public. If my book, if the Dalit parliamentarians say that this should be banned, I will accept and withdraw that book. But if the upper caste say no, we will fight it. We will fight it in the street. So Dalits are much oppressed by all sections, including my own caste. Therefore, I treat Dalit representatives as the best judges of even OBC consciousness, even the communist consciousness, even the secular consciousness, even the upper caste women's consciousness. Because the Dalit MPs were the representatives of Dalit masses in reserved constituencies. And that is the best yardstick. So Ambedkar is a prophet like Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Marx. He is not a prophet. I am not comparing Ambedkar to Brahma, Vishnu, Saraswati, Rama, Krishna. I think these intellectuals lost their brain. They don't read what a prophet is. Prophet is a human being. Prophet is not God. Prophet is not mythical. Now, see, Isaiah was prophet in Israel, Jeremiah was prophet in Israel, and Abraham was the prophet in Israel. They were proper human beings. They were not gods. Therefore, I would again and again say, Ambedkar has assumed a prophetic stage starting from 1990 Mandal movement. And by the time his cartoon was taken into the 11th class textbook by Yogendra Yadav and Suhas Kalsekar, in 2006, he had already become a prophet. Now you cannot treat a prophet as an untouchable. You cannot treat prophet as a person who could be whipped by a Brahmin. Now they are trying to show that Nehru is whipping the snail. See, these people don't understand what rural students think about it. A rural student who does not know about cartoon technology itself, who has been seeing Dalits being whipped every day in the village, if they sees the cartoon in this book, if it is his own textbook, our own textbook, they see the Dalit icon, the Dalit prophet being whipped by a Brahmin, whether he was prime minister, secular, democratic, all that does not matter. Therefore, Ambedkar is a prophet of the Dalits and the Bahujans like me. Now, how many OBCs accept him as a prophet is a different thing. How many Dalits accept him as a prophet is a different thing. But I accept him as my prophet. He was the one who connected me to Buddha. He was the one who connected me to the anti-Hindu heritage, culture, civilization. He was the one who connected me and my people who listen my voice to our own food culture. Today when I talk beef as our food culture, this is the ancient India. This is the Buddhist India. This is multi-cushion India. And that is what Ambedkar has paved us the way. Ambedkar has shown us. We don't go by what these people define us. They have not given us any voice at any time. They always kept us aside. Now these intellectuals must tell me how many Dalits OBCs are there in JNU? How many Dalits OBCs are there in Delhi University? How many Dalits OBCs are there in CLCS? Wherever they are heading, they are basically anti-OBC and anti-Dalit. They may parade in any name. That parade does not liberate my people. They have not taught to my people. It is we need to teach to our people. And if they want to attack us, if they want to humiliate us, if they want to discriminate us in the public forum, okay, you do it. You have done it for 3,000 years. You are a Brahmin, you are a Chatterjee, you are a Banerjee, you are a Nigam, you are Menon, you are what not, you are everything. And I am Iliah like Isaiah, who was a prophet in, who was a tiller of the land. See, these people don't understand. We come from the rock bottom of the society. We come from the killing soil. We come from the shepherd community. We come from the pot makers community. We are not from Brahmins, Banyas, and the Sudra Apakas who have ruled this country to define what Ambedkar. See, there is a great debate now around this cartoon. They are saying that suddenly they discovered cartoon pedagogy. Now, do the pot makers, the shoemakers, the tillers of the land, the fisher women and men, the washer women and men, their children, do they understand what a cartoon is? Are these intellectuals ready for teaching them in any language that their status could change? Did they write anything about them so far? they draw anything in terms of pictures or cartoons showing their dignified status in the society. So, who are they to tell us that how we should define our icons? Who are they to tell us how we should construct our language? Who are they to tell us how they should, we should work our means, ways and means to change our status? Now, I would certainly listen to those who worked around our life, our social change. Well, there were many Western sociologists who have come to this country and worked among tribals, worked among Dalits, worked among OBCs, worked among shepherds, and they gave script to certain languages. They gave us English today to us. And I would certainly revere William Carey, who came to this country and gave us English language. I certainly revere Macaulay, who gave us English now. In a country where we did not have even the right to read and write a book or a letter. And our tongues were cut, our hands were cut, our fingers were cut, lead was poured into it. None of these intellectuals critic that tradition. So, today what are they telling us? That they should define what should be there in the textbook. Now, there could be one or two here and there, but the point is, they are trying to put us in a dock, in a boat, in a court, and say that you don't know how to understand Ambedkar. You don't know how to understand Pule. If a Dalit says that you don't know how to understand Ambedkar, I will listen. But if a Brahmin, if an upper caste person who has not done anything for OBCs and Dalits, well, I don't take their word seriously. And nor do masses should take them seriously. Not should the government take them seriously. Why? Where did the cartoon problem start? It is Tamil Nadu Dalit movement again found out this cartoon is absolutely bad. It is Dalit political party which found. Today the same Tamil Nadu is saying that in first class book there is a cartoon which attacks the anti-Hindu agitation, which treats the anti-Hindu agitation as Gunda, street Gunda agitation. Now how will they justify that? Do these people want to impose Hindi on us? When we want English to our people, none of these people, neither Yogendra Yadav, nor Suhas Palsikar, nor Aditya Nigam, or Partha Chatterjee, or anyone, even Nivedita Menon, or the feminists of upper caste who don't understand, they did not say a single word about whether Dalits, tribals, OBC should be taught in English medium or not in the schools. Now they want our children to be taught through cartoons. What is this cartoon pedagogy that they are talking? Now this cartoon shows that the Tamils have no brains. They are opposing Hindi, and Hindi is the greatest language of this country. Hindi nationalism should come to South, and this is what Yogendra Yadav and Suhas Palsikar and all these people believe. They were all Hindi walas. They study in English. Their children are put in English, and when Tamil Nadu saved the whole country from imposing Hindi, they are humiliated in this cartoon. Don't we understand their language? Don't we understand their selection? Now this is a very serious issue. So they pick up a cartoon which Shankar deliberately draws, treating Ambedkar as a nut, a reserved nut who doesn't understand law, and it was a great Nehru who understands law, and they pick up a cartoon which says that the anti-Hindi agitators are street gundas. I am saying this is nothing but intellectual Goondagiri. Now, you cannot treat our history, our culture, our Dravidian culture. You are part of the Aryan culture now. What are you talking? Now, see, we get angry with this, because how can you treat an anti-Hindi agitation which saved South from the slavery of Aryan language, the slavery of Sanskrit language, the historical destruction of the Hindi, imposition of Hindi on the entire South, who were basically Dravidian black people like buffaloes. Now, why did they select this cartoon and put in a medium of text for the school children who need to understand that Dravidian movements are far greater movements than the North Indian Aryan movements. Now, do you want to tell us that Arya Samaj is great? Do you want to tell us that Sanskrit is great? Do you want to tell us that Brahma Samaj is great? No. You must have included one or two sentences here. I am sympathetic to that. But when you are saying that Kancha Iliah is projecting Ambedkar as a prophet, he does not know social science language, he is not a social scientist. Are you the social scientist in this country? Did you write about the greatness of science, shoemaking, the greatness of pot making? You talk about terracotta as a source of history, but you don't talk about pot maker as historian, makers of the history. It is I who talked about it. It is we who talked about it. Therefore, if that intellectual Goondagiri continues to operate even in the secular school, even in the democratic school, even in the socialist school, we will not tolerate. That is where I differed with the radical communist movement also. The Maoist movement. The movement which started here, I was part of it. Why did I differ? That there was no Marx there, there was no Mao there, there was no Ho Chi Minh there, there was no Che Guevara there. There was only a Brahmanic ideological elements who are working towards the revolution to enslave us for 500 more years. That's where we fought them and came out. And that is where my journey of writing, Buddha as political philosopher started. That's where my journey of writing Why I Am Not a Hindu started. That's where my journey of writing Buffalo Nationalism started. That is where my journey of writing, the other nationalism started. That is where my journey of writing a novel on untouchable God started. So, whom are they telling this today? This nation, whom does this nation belong to? Does it belong to our great grandparents or grandmothers, grandfathers, or their grandparents and grandmothers? So this is the question that needs to be settled around whether it is cartoon, whether it is medium of instruction. Now you want to impose Hindi on us, you want to impose cartoons which our children don't know at all. You want to impose your own method of pedagogy, and you don't want to put a dozen OBCs, a dozen Dalits, a dozen women who are sensitive from Dalit background in the committee of textbook writing. You put one or two here and there. They must be made. They will be made absolutely muted people there around. So this cannot go for long. So why they think that I am supporting Parliament, I am supporting ruling agents? Yes, Ambedkar gave us a constitution and a parliament as against Kautilya's Arthashastra and Manu's Manudharma, as against monarchy. Monarchy was the system of Brahmin and Banyas and Kshatriyas, and Kautilya's Arthashastra was a political statecraft text of empowerment of the Brahmin, Banya, Kshatriya forces. Manu's text was a social artistic text, as against that he gave a constitution. He played a very legal role. But prophets are legal pundits. Prophets are economic pundits. Prophets are social pundits. Prophets are spiritual pundits. That's what prophets are. Therefore, he was the only person in the nationalist period who was like a prophet, knows everything. And that is where sometimes I think that there could have been a huge a divine spirit in him working in a situation of where Gandhi, Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Sardar Patel, who were like pygmies before him. In any sphere, they did not do PhDs in Western countries. It was something impossible in those days. They were not economists. They were not sociologists. They were not political scientists. They were not legal pundits. But he was. And he was a great spiritual liberator. So therefore, I call him a prophet. And you don't understand the language of prophet. How many of you read the entire Bible to understand the language of prophet Jesus? He liberated the Samaritan untouchables. He liberated the Gentiles who were Sudras. He liberated the tribes like the tribes of India. And he fought Pharisees of Israel who were exactly like Brahmins of India. And he took them away from the temples, like the Hindu temples, Tirupati, Bhadrachalam Rama or Ayodhya Rama, and gave a connection between God and people, not in the temple, but wherever they were. He was the philosopher who established individualism. He was the philosopher who constructed a theory for separation of state and religion. That is where he said, when the taxpayer asked him, should we pay tax? Jesus said, unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give unto God what belongs to God. That is, give to state what state deserves, give to religion what religion deserves. So he separated them. Don't you see that there is social science in this? When he talked about the kingdom of God, where the first will be the last and the last will be the first, what is he talking? He was talking about a state where the Israeli Brahmins will be the last, the Israeli untouchable will be the first. If you apply that to India, he is talking about now, in a new language, that the Brahmins of India will be the last and the untouchable Dalits of India will be the first. Now this language Ambedkar translated into a social reality. So in that sense, Ambedkar is not only a follower of Buddha, but Ambedkar is a follower of Jesus. He translated that great statement of Jesus, Jesus, who was the prophet, the Son of God, an abstract God, not an ideal God, that in the kingdom of God, the first will be the last will be the first. That means these intellectuals who are in universities today, who are talking against Ambedkar, Phule, Periyar, and want to whip them in these textbooks, they should become the last one. And the SC, OBCs, who were in the last for 3,000 years, they should be leading the universities as the first ones. And this route was chosen by Ambedkar in the true spirit of Jesus. And how did he implement the agenda of Muhammad? See, Prophet Muhammad was the first prophet after Jesus, the third prophet, who said that celibacy is not good. There is no need for celibate life, and there is no need for hypocrisy. If one does not want to marry, one can remain, but all can marry. God does not treat sexual engagement as impure. And Muhammad created that, marriage as a divine system, every man, every woman can marry, childbirth is pure, delivery is pure, and all man-woman relations are absolutely human, that Ambedkar practiced here. How? He even reformed Buddhism. He took Buddhism with his wife. He did not become a wifeless monk. And that is a remarkable implementation of Prophet Muhammad's, man-woman relationship in divine right. So therefore, Ambedkar is a multiple expression of various prophets who liberated this world one by one, step by step, period after period. And now in India, Ambedkar has liberated untouchables, connected them to Buddha, to Jesus and to Muhammad. And I am saying today they have the right to go to any religion but not remain Hindu. That is what a prophetic role is. These people don't understand what I am saying. He has an agenda to completely dismantle Hinduism. Does Yogendra Yadav agree with it? Does Suhas Palsekar agree with it? Does Adityanism, who is attacking Dalit intellectuals, agree with this? That Hinduism is the source of all discrimination, all inequality. And Ambedkar's agenda was to completely demolish and completely remove idol worship. He didn't want idol worship. Construction of idols today is coming up because you have millions of idols in it. Therefore, Dalits are using Ambedkar's statue as an idol, Buddha's statue as an idol, because the thorn has to be removed with the thorn itself. Therefore, they are doing it. But over a period of time, this country will overcome all idol worship, and philosophical debates will take place. Ambedkar can be debated. Ambedkar could be taught. They don't know Jesus was debated in all universities, Cambridge, Harvard, Oxford, through theological courses. The universities came into existence only to debate Jesus. So why do they think that a prophet should not be debated? A prophet cannot be scrutinized. He can be, but with respect, dignity, not with a culture of treating a prophet as untouchable, as indignified human being, as a dull-headed person to be whipped up in a textbook. No. That is what I am opposed, and all Dalits will be enraged if they continue to uphold these views and if they continue to draw such cartoons.
So how do you see the division between Dalit-Bahujan intellectuals and the so-called secular Marxist progressive intellectuals in various issues, such as starting from Mandal and Lokpal, and Lokpal in the sense Anna Hazare movement, where they were supporting, and the recent Ambedkar cartoon controversy?
See, the upper caste, secular, democratic, liberal, nationalist intellectuals never had a categorical stand. First, on abolition of caste. They never had a categorical stand on universal egalitarian English medium education for all. They never had a categorical stand on the SC, OBC minorities who did not have a representation in higher education, in school education, in middle range of education, to get their proportional share in all of them, including the private sector and the industry. Now, see their role. Let us go to 1990 Mandal period, when the anti-Mandal agitators, who actually came from the upper caste families, some of them were the Hindutva people, some of them were seculars, Democrats, their own family members, when they started attacking us, we were very few people who were defending government. You can go to Economic and Political Weekly. None of these people wrote a major critical assessment of the upper caste consciousness, manipulation, and their control on education. See, in 1990, somewhere September, I wrote this article in Economic Political Weekly called Reservations Experience as Framework of Debate. We in Hyderabad formed a group along with the Stri Shakti at that time, Suji Taru, me and some of other friends. Then Gail Ambedkar wrote another article. Then in Illustrated Weekly there was an article written by Suji Taru and a group of people. Perhaps the only intellectual who took a stand along with us, who came from the Brahmin family at that time, was Bahujans. But none of these people who are now talking about the secular, democratic, socialist, ideological transformation, including the communists, they have not written anything substantial opposing the anti-Mandal forces, supporting the Mandal forces in any major theoretical debate. Number one. Number two, what is their role in implementing Mandal reservation law? We fought the battle. It was a battle of SC, OBCs in the streets, in the parliament. The universities were totally against them. Today they are talking that universities should not, parliament should not scrutinize their intellectual work. But it was parliament which had to take a decision about implementing Mandal reservation. It was not the university. These universities were opposing reservation till today. They are opposing reservation till today. And all these intellectuals who are now talking about the greatness of critical pedagogy, cartoon pedagogy, Dalits being represented in that pedagogy, they have no stand on serious implementation of reservation in the institutions where they are existing. So, from Mandal to Mandal 2 phase, 2007, they had no serious role. Left communist parties, left and democratic parties did not take a major role. That is one of the reasons why the Dalits don't trust them even in the electoral field. That is the reason why the communist parties became weak now, because when there is no trust among the intellectuals, when we talk about it, that trust-less situation also gets into the rural mass. So the left democratic secular people, what they are talking as pro OBC, pro SC, they are not. For example, secularism. What is their understanding of secularism? Secularism means for them that Hindus, that is Hindu upper caste, Muslim elite, Christian elite, without interfering with each other's religious practices, they should coexist in institutions. Now this is a dangerous theory of secularism. What is anti-secular in India? Anti-secular in India is that the untouchable, the shoemaker, the pot maker, the road sweeper, and the Brahmin, they cannot sit together, cannot eat together, cannot live together, cannot work in the job in the same manner, at the same pedestal. Secularism means untouchable and Brahmin living as equals in every sphere. In the temple, in the religious, in the educational institutions, in the universities, not a single one, any one of these secularists wrote a single article that untouchability is anti-secular. Temple untouchability is anti-secular. There should be secularism of Brahmins and SC/ST OBCs. They are talking about secularism of Muslims, Christians and Hindus, because they are all upper caste, they are elite, they are feudals, they are now Caste. So they never had a categorical stand historically on the real Ambedkarism. The real Ambedkarism is dismantling of Hinduism. The real Ambedkarism is Dalits coming to power, OBCs coming to power, women coming to power, and the Brahminic forces getting out of the power. And educational institutions becoming democratically equal. One of the ways through which these people can come into that educational institutions is reservations. And they don't want reservations where they exist. They don't want reservations in Hindu temples. If you think that Hinduism is... See, what is the difference between you and Hindu people? Between you and BJP people? BJP people don't ask for reservations in temples. They ask for equality at vote place. They establish Dalit Morchas, Dalit organizations within the party. And you also don't ask for reservations in Hindu temples that let every Dalit become a priest in the temple if he is a Hindu. You don't ask. But the moment they become Christian, the moment they become Buddhist, the moment they become Muslims, you say that the conversions are becoming dangerous. So you don't give equality here. The intellectual does not speak about equality in religion, but if somebody converts, they become very worried about this whole conversion politics. After all, conversion is also political. Religion is political. Religion is liberating. Religion is spiritual liberating. So they don't have a stand. They don't have a stand on reservation, they don't have a stand on religion, they don't have a stand on, say for example, English medium education. What is the way to remove reservation in this country? All children should be able to study the NCERT books which whatever intellectual group prepared. Now let us assume that without these cartoons, these books are good standard books. Now should they be studied by all children or not? Why are they presuming that these English medium books should not be studied by Adivasi children, Dalit children, OBC children and minority children? They wrote these books keeping the urban, upper caste, upper middle English medium students. How can you write books like that? Because these books, once you are writing standard textbooks, is it not your responsibility, duty to demand that they should be taught for all children? And is it not your responsibility to think that when you are writing for all children, their consciousness and their sensitivities must reflect in all books? Now if you wrote books in English medium like this, is it not your responsibility to ask that this same English medium best class book which I wrote for 11th class, all children should be studying in English medium and studying this book which we wrote as one of the best textbooks in English medium? Now if you are for that, why are you criticizing the Tamil movement against Hindi? So that means you wrote this book for North Indian upper caste English medium children. Is this good? What kind of secularism is it? Are you secular in terms of Aryan and Dravidian? Are you secular? Did any one of these intellectuals ask a simple question if they are secular? That cow has been incorporated in the constitutional provision, directive principles of state policy for protection. We have been asking that India lives with buffalo milk. And buffalo is the blackest animal, which is the most beautiful animal. For us, black is beautiful. Did they ask that at least if cow is not removed from the directive principles of Constitution, buffalo should also be included along with cow? Did Yogendra Yadav write an article on this? Did Aditya Nigam write? Did Partha Chatterjee write an article? Did Nivedita Menon write an article on this? That cow and buffalo should have equal status in the Constitution. Now, what is cow? What does cow represent? Cow represents whiteness. Cow represents Aryanness. Cow represents Hindu sacredness. Cow represents Hindu Gomata. Cow represents Hindu Kamadeva. What about that buffalo? Buffalo represents Dalit sacredness. Buffalo represents, Dravidian spirituality. Buffalo represents Dravidian beauty. Buffalo represents Dravidian economy. Buffalo represents Dravidian history and ideology. So did any one of these animal protectors, secular, democratic, ask that no, we have committed a mistake by including only cow in the Constitution? Today, the data shows that 10 times buffaloes get killed, their meat gets exported to other countries. Now cows are saved on many priorities, whereas the buffalo, which gives 75% of our milk, is getting killed. Now you don't have a stand on food culture. If Brahmins are saying vegetarianism is sacred, gods love vegetarianism, did any one of these people take a stand? I know Nivedita Menon took a stand, but did any one of them write a major article? That no, all people's food cultures are divine, spiritually valid. They did not. So they are being exposed one after the other as anti-Dalit, anti-OBC, anti-women too. It is our ancestral thinkers who have man-woman equality ideology very strong. Much better than Raja Ram Mohan Rai, much better than Dayanand Saraswati, whether it was Buddha, whether it was Pule, whether it was Basava. They don't have any sensible examination of these people. So on all these parameters, they are proving to be casteist. They are proving to be Aryan by nature. They are proving to be upper caste by intellectual consciousness. They are proving to be anti-Dalit.
So how do you look at the question of language pedagogy itself? When upper caste intellectuals are talking about cartoon pedagogy, it's a revolution, they say. Is there a hidden agenda to stop the expansion of English among the Dalit-Bahujans in South India? The point what I'm trying to say is when people like you and Chandraban Prasad all are talking about the importance of English language, but here the intellectuals are talking about the revolution made by the NCERT book on the cartoon revolution. So was there anything?
No, I think we need to examine this from an historical context. When Sanskrit was the Brahmanic ruling language, people were talking various reproductive languages in different parts of India. But the main anti-Sanskrit language was Pali. The ruling intellectuals at that time tried to impose only Sanskrit on the rest of the society without allowing them to learn it properly, read it properly, write it properly. Then we have come to a phase of Muslim rulers, having been influenced by the same Brahmanic thought. The Muslim rulers also adopted Persian as the ruling language. And the people were talking their own rural productive languages, castes and communities have their own different languages. But they did not teach them the ruling language, they did not create script for them, the Persian ruled. Then the British came and started English as the ruling language. Now, in this phase, a critical shift took place. Since the Britishers, the colonial rulers, they who were colonialists, since they had a Christian egalitarian ethic with them, they thought that English should also be learnt by the upper caste Indians and also other Indians, all Indians. Now that is where the role of William Carey in Bengal and the Assam region and the Northeast, and Macaulay's region role in mainland, Delhi, Bombay province comes in. They established schools, they established colleges, where Brahmins were the main people who were given that education, who chose that education, leaving their Sanskrit and their Persian knowledge aside, they took to English. But from this English, we could produce our own Mahatma. From this English, finally we produced our prophetic force like Ambedkar, who is a multi-special intellectual, multi-speciality intellectual. He was an intellectual in multiple spheres. He became what he was because of English education. Now we realize that this English should become the language of all our children. Then only our children will become the rulers of this country and better rulers, because communication in regional languages will restrict their mobility, their understanding, their vision. So our children must learn English from LKG, UKG onwards. Now when we took up the campaign for English education, they have not, the intellectuals who are now talking about cartoon pedagogy, not a single one took a stand with us that yes, when our children are studying in English medium, it is very justified. So we realized that our children from tribal areas, Dalit-Bahujas, OBC villages and so on, they must all learn their education through English language. So every child must start with their education, either education in LKG and UKG and move upwards. So we started this writing campaign, but quite tragically, none of these progressive intellectuals who are claiming that they have been very secular, democratic, humanitarian, did support this whole demand. But at the same time, they have been educating their children in English medium schools, and the best of the world. Whether they are professional, whether they are professors, academicians, they were never putting their children in Hindi medium or so. So what is good to your child should be good to Dalit, tribal, OBC, for all. That's what our goal. So when myself, Chandrababu and many others were talking about this, they took a very oppositional stand. They started arguing that mother tongue will give more clarity, mother tongue education is more creative, mother tongue education is better for the nation, and Hindi is the nationalist language. Perhaps it is this mentality that reflected in choosing the cartoon that portrayed anti-Hindi agitation as almost anti-national agitation, a violent agitation which today Vaiko and Ramdas are trying to oppose. Now, what is this mentality all about? This mentality is all about that we should learn English, we should write English books, we should prepare NCERT English medium textbooks, but these books should not be read by all children. They should be read by a section of upper caste who will become rulers with better knowledge, better information, and with the pedagogical skills that we gave to them. I am saying this is in fact anti-national. A nation should have one language as a teaching language. They can learn other languages side by side. But any nation, when you call it a nation, the child who, or in the forest zone of the nation, or a child in the small village of the nation, or a child in the richest town of the nation, must learn the same language, read the same textbook, be taught by the similar teachers who train in best of the institutes to teach. So that is the best nationalism to me. But what is this intellectual attitude of this? The intellectual attitude of all these people is, no, Hindi is the best for rural people in North India. Tamil is the best for the rural people in Tamil Nadu. Telugu is the best language for rural SC/ST OBC children in Andhra Pradesh. Kannada is the best language for Kannadiga children, but not for the upper caste and the middle class, upper middle class. This is simple anti-nationalism. This whole language discourse is based on the premise, though they quote a different language, different terminology, different idiom, that the Dalit-Bahujans should never become rulers in millions, in lakhs. Now if you just imagine a situation where all Dalit-Bahujan children up to 12th class study in English medium, talk in English, they will produce thousands of intellectuals who can match them. Today we are doing this kind of intellectual activity having come from regional language with a great effort. We had to break our nervous system to come to this level. But for them it is just a cakewalk. To write a book, to write an article, to interpret a cartoon, to do anything, it is their homebound work. But for us it is not. I can't even today understand an abstract cartoon because I was not trained in my childhood. My parents don't know it. Now I could read a text because the text was taught in the school. So there is a conspiracy of not allowing English to spread into rural areas. This conspiracy is rooted in the consciousness that we should remain rulers because English is the ruling language. English is the file writing language. English is the best book writing language. English is Supreme Court judgment language. English is High Court judgment language. English is District Court judgment language. So we want to break this chain.
So, yeah. So is there this language, whenever, as you were saying, this intellectuals who are based on English language, they talk about the importance of regional language. Though they don't write in Hindi. For example, if Bhattacharya writes a book, he'll write it in English rather than Hindi or Bengali. So that my point here is there this regional language movement like Marathi movement, if it is run by Hindutva movement? In Tamil, it is a Hindutva movement in a different level, like not like exactly like Hindutva. There is influence. So do you find this all regional language, which all intellectuals, English intellectuals talking about, has something a greater impact on it, in the sense the upper caste who are ruling the regional language? Like that? Do you have something like that?
See, what happened, the language nationalism as part of the general nationalism has heavily influenced the SC/ST OBC leadership. They also unfortunately took up to this regional language chauvinistic arguments, because for them it was easy to argue in that language, it was easy to become speakers, it was easy. The best example is Tamil Nadu itself. Tamil Nadu leadership raised very fundamental questions about the nationalism, about Dravidian ideology, about the history, but it has not produced very good English-speaking leadership within the Dravid political parties. They all confine themselves to. So a situation has arisen now that the best Tamil leaders cannot rule India from Delhi. It is, people like Chidambaram and Subramanya Swamy, having come from the upper caste, who don't agree essentially with the Dravidian movement, they rule India from Delhi, but not the real Dravidian movement. Similarly, the Dalit Panther movement in Maharashtra. Of course, Andhra Pradesh has the Dalit-Bahujan movement in my generational period. And since I am one among them, we have right from the beginning raising this question that no, we don't have the love for Telugu at all. Because basically this Telugu is a Sanskritized Telugu, Kannada is a Sanskritized Kannada, Marathi is Sanskritized Marathi. Therefore we need to move into English education. Perhaps our voices are very few voices, because the large Dalit intellectuals also don't come onto that boat, because that creates a very inconvenient situation around you. But of late, the Dalit movement at the pan-Indian level realized that English is the language of power. Therefore, they are demanding for that. Now, in a situation of cartoon pedagogy debate, in a situation of anti-Hindi debate, in a situation of reservation and anti-reservation debates, I think the only way that the Dalit-Bahujan intellectuals must realize and put on the table is that English should become our mother tongue, our language, and it should become the national language. But this ownership is not coming because large regional languages leaders of Dalit movement, OBC movements still are comfortable with regional languages. They are not comfortable with English education. Now, to overcome that, the strategy is to create chain of English medium schools in those states for big children, and create English pedagogy, not cartoon pedagogy to start with, English pedagogy among the rural children, among the Dalit children. Because English pedagogy is easy to spread. I'll give you one example. In my village, there is an English medium school meant for SC/ST OBC children. There is a government Telugu medium school. There is a private Telugu medium school. This year, 10 students took the 10th class examination. And all 10 students from the English medium school passed in first class and above. one boy, a tribal boy, got A1, 9.3. 5 Adivasi and OBC students got A2, that is 9 and slightly lower than 9 points. And the remaining are more than 6.6, all of them. Several Telugu medium students failed in other schools. And these kids speak excellent English, as good as any other English medium child, Delhi public school or Hyderabad public school child can speak. So that means English could be learned by them creatively, and competence level is far higher than the regional language competence level. So, we have now established such schools, almost 105 schools, through the Dalit Freedom Network, and these children are doing far better than the regional language children, where there is no English in their families at all, there is no education. So it is possible to create this environment. So English pedagogy should be the first major issue of all these intellectual groups. If they come with us, we are very happy with that. If they don't come with us, we need to fight them out.